China is on the brink of economic collapse. The shadow banking sector is causing serious issues. Issues that are affecting the people of China and its government. People are relying on the government to once again rescue the shadow banking sector. But is there enough money to go around? Stay till the end to find out the full story. China was doing well this year. It had a major bump in activity at the start of 2023. This was thanks in part to the lifting of COVID lockdowns. But that boom in production is stalling. The prices for consumer goods are falling. The real estate crisis is worsening and infecting everything. Exports are down. Unemployment among the youth is at an all-time low. It's getting so bad that the government is no longer sharing statistics about it. One of the reasons for this is shadow banking. But what exactly is it? China has a lot of financial activities that are not regulated by the government or the banks. They call this shadow banking. Shadow banking is a specific sector of the Chinese economy. Shadow banks operate outside the realm of traditional banks. They funnel money into many more sectors of the economy in comparison, and the range of investments they partake in is much wider. Shadow banks aren't operating in secret. They're actually quite big and well known in China. In China, regular bank savings accounts give very low interest rates, less than 1.5%, which means a small amount of return for keeping your savings in these banks. But trust companies, also known as shadow banks, are different. They've offered Chinese people much higher returns on their savings. They've been doing this for years, and they often promise that they won't lose their money. High returns were easy for trust companies when China's economy was booming. But in recent years, it's been harder to achieve those returns. Trust companies use your short-term deposits to invest in long-term assets. They do this to generate a good financial return while also giving you a decent interest rate. The problem is that many investments from trust companies went into China's real estate market, a market which has faced many problems lately. Shadow banking can be risky. This is because it is not transparent and can cause problems for the economy if something goes wrong. Goldman Sachs estimates that Chinese trust companies might lose up to $38 billion. This situation is somewhat like what happened during the 2007-2008 financial crisis. Back then, shadow banks caused and made the crisis worse. They did this by making and selling risky mortgages and related investments to earn more money. They called these subprime mortgages. These were loans given to people with low credit scores. It was likely that these people could have had trouble paying these loans back, and that's exactly what happened. The people who took out these mortgages couldn't pay them back, and that subsequently made the value of these investments drop. Other financial companies lost faith in shadow banks and stopped lending to them. This led to a panic. This situation is similar to when people rush to take their money out of a regular bank. Shadow banks didn't have enough money to pay their debts. They had to sell their assets at low prices. This created more losses and chaos in the financial system. One of the big companies that does shadow banking in China is Zhongrong. It has a lot of money from investors, but it failed to pay them back on time by August of 2023. And this made people worry that it might go bankrupt. The money it owes is a lot. Zhongrong failed to deliver a staggering $19 million to investors. The government asked another company, CITIC, to check how bad Zhongrong's situation was, which is not a good sign. CITIC did the same thing for another company back in 2021. They found the company to be billions of dollars in debt, which resulted in the government having to bail it out with a lot of money. The company was known as Huarong, or formerly known as China Huarong Asset Management Company Ltd. It was set up in 1999 and would be responsible for one of the largest bailouts in China's recent history. Huarong, mostly owned by China's Ministry of Finance, was established to handle bad debts. It was created after the Asian financial crisis of the late 1990s to protect China's state-owned banks. Huarong and similar companies expanded into various ventures over time. These included leasing, insurance, and brokerage. It also took part in cheap borrowing from markets both inside and outside the country. This made it turn into one of the major shadow banks. However, the company's management was questionable. The chairman, Mr. Lai Xiaoman, expanded the company far beyond its original purpose, partaking in activities it was never meant to be in. Mr. Lai then stepped down from his position in 2018 due to accusations of political corruption. The former chairman was then sentenced to death in 2021. He was charged with bigamy and corruption. His arrest and execution caused chaos in Huarong, even if he was the former chairman. He admitted to breaking the law in a public trial at the Second Municipal Intermediate People's Court of Tianjin. Lai was accused of using his positions to benefit others illegally between 2008 and 2018. He received money and gifts valued at about 1.79 billion yuan, which is over $256 million. But he didn't receive more than 104 million yuan of that. Mr. Lai also misused his positions to take more than 25.13 million yuan in public funds, often working with others. He was also charged with unlawfully having 2 marriages and children outside of his legal marriage. Mr. Lai gave a final statement before his execution. He pleaded guilty to his actions while expressing remorse at the same time. The death sentence given to him for his white-collar crimes received widespread criticism. Human rights groups accused China of taking a major step back. The execution of Mr. Lai is one of the harshest penalties for corruption. This is, in part, thanks to President Xi Jinping's efforts to put a stop to corruption once and for all. Huarong's management was in disorder as a result of this execution. The company's annual earnings report for 2020 was due in March of 2021, but there was nothing but silence from the company after the date passed. On the 1st of April 2021, they finally broke their silence. The company announced a delay in the release of the financial results, citing an auditor's inability to finalize a transaction. As a result, the company ceased the trading of their shares while also reassuring investors that the business was running as usual, a lie that would be revealed in the coming months. In mid-July, its financial results weren't known to the public at the time, but state officials were able to get an early look at them, and what they found was extremely worrying. Huarong's financial results reported a massive loss of $16 billion for 2020, and they would keep this a secret from the public until August of 2021. This report was so worrying that officials didn't want to be associated with the company. The Ministry of Finance wanted to wash its hands of Huarong, even though it controlled Huarong from the start. But the responsibility of cleaning up this mess was given to CITIC Group in the end. CITIC Group is a powerful and rich state enterprise, but even it was concerned with being handed the reins of this problem. Fears of being blamed for the downfall of Huarong flooded the minds of officials. But the crisis was averted, and Huarong was bailed out. It received a staggering $6.6 billion from the state-backed investors led by CITIC. They also started to sell off unessential assets of Huarong to strip back the sprawling enterprise. This case was interesting to investors. They saw how the Chinese government reacted to corporate failures. Could we be in for the same situation with Zhongrong? Zhongrong is a big player in China's $2.9 trillion trust industry, and it's part of the Zhongxi Enterprise Group. They manage almost $90 billion of investors' money. Zhongrong offers investment products that aim to provide a regular income, with some paying out every month. This means any serious problems at the company are hard to hide. Experts have found many investment products from Zhongrong that have failed to make payments to their investors. Some of their short-term investments also can't be cashed in right now. Zhongrong made the same mistake as Huarong. In 2022, they invested significant funds into the real estate market, a housing market that, as we know it today, is very shaky. Zhongrong expected the real estate market to make a comeback, but this prediction didn't come true. Currently, 11% of their money is tied up in the Chinese real estate market. The situation with Zhongrong has worsened to the point of protests. Chinese social media shows people rallying outside the company's office, demanding their money back. And if the issues with China's real estate continue, it's likely that the entire financial system could suffer. With so much uncertainty, people are now moving their money to government bonds and bank accounts for safety reasons. If this keeps up, non-bank companies may run into more trouble as they'll be lacking in funds to borrow. What's next for Zhongrong? The government might have to do the same thing for Zhongrong as they did for Huarong. but it lacks the funds to do so. A new report says that the government's budget is limited and depends on the growth of the economy, which is slowing down. The government has tried to boost the economy through various measures, such as rule changes to revive the struggling stock market. But even with these changes, economists believe that a bailout is inevitable. However, a study conducted by the Rhodium Group points out that China's ability to provide a bailout for Zhongrong is unlikely. There is a common perception that China's low government debt levels provide room for substantial investments. However, structural issues related to revenue collection are more restrictive than what is commonly believed. China has used its investments in infrastructure to drive economic growth. They rely quite a bit on this, but this growth is on the decline. Tax income is decreasing when compared to the size of the economy, and the housing market isn't helping this trend. The fiscal deficit of China is around 6 to 7% of GDP, meaning it's spending 6 to 7% more money than it is earning. Do you think the Chinese government would be able to resolve Zhongrong's issues when it's lacking funds? Or could they borrow and bail out Zhongrong before things get worse? If you have any thoughts on this, let us know in the comments, and be sure to take a look at the next video.